there's a kind of thing that it seems to me that humans need. We tend to be a little bit Wendell Berry-ish at Plough, in a way that I think you're not. Um, because I think you think that it's romantic and fundamentally kind of like a cultivating a scarcity mindset. But for me, at least, like introspecting, it seems to me that like human beings kind of need to feel as though they're in a, a, a world that has in some way scarce resources, in some way like infinitely abundant resources. God gives us, good things in abundance. But in another way, we kind of do need the world to be pushing back on us. And we need that sense of like limitation in order to feel like we're actually having an effect on the world. And a world of like infinite abundance without any effort on our part or without any ingenuity on our part. Like maybe that will work in the new heavens and the new earth, although I tend to think that they'll require ingenuity as well. But it certainly doesn't work here. So I feel like we need scarcity, but we also need not to fall into that scarcity mindset.
I do love my fellow cranky Kentuckian. When I was young, I thought that I would be a poet, and so I mailed him a poem of mine, and he said, "This is almost a poem," was his reply. So I didn't. I went into economics instead. But so I think we have to distinguish between what is good for a human and what is good for humans. I think what is good for a human is to live a limited life, to be content with your own small place in the world, to in some sense, like almost like a scarcity mindset to look at the things you have and say, this is enough. And not to have unlimited ambition. At the same time, I think that what humans need is the opposite of that. That is, we in fact need people of extraordinary ambition. Perhaps we don't want to be them, but we do need them. And this is the classic problem, frankly, that confronts Berry and is going to confront any Anabaptist community in the world of, it's the problem of pacifism, right? That it's clearly an ethically good way of life, and also it depends on non-pacifists protecting it. I think, it is this whole we're just going to keep solving all the problems forever and keep innovating forever. There is a kind of hubris to this, right? Like there's a kind of, how excellent is man, how noble his reason. Like, that's not quite right. Man is fallen. But the alternative to that, the institutionalization of a more, and I say this fondly, of a more parochial mindset. And again, I'm from Kentucky. Being parochial is a compliment, right? Like, the more backwards, the better. But like, the institutionalization of that idea just leads to mass death. Like, ideas that are beautiful on the small scale are terrible on the great scale. They actually become monsters. The way you treat your spouse, the constantly urging them on to goodness, telling them, speaking the truth to them, all this. If the government treated you that way, if the government treated everyone that way, it would be horrible, right? There's within the confines of small, intimate relationships, there are things you can do that you can't do at scale, right? And so we need both, right? We need people to create small lives for themselves, to create human-scaled lives for themselves. But that requires a superstructure of vastly greater efficiency to make it functional and humane. So I think it kind of depends on the level we're talking about. And I think, yes, we often have a discomfort saying that there's a distinction between, the individual and the collective. But at the end of the day, we are not supposed to murder, but the state exists to bear the sword. I can't just go and take money from my neighbor, but I should render to Caesar what is Caesar's, because Caesar does have the right to take money from me. There actually are, biblically speaking, different vocations for different institutions and persons, which create different duties, responsibilities, obligations, and ultimately moral prerogatives.
I'm feeling like Lutheranism coming at me out of the screen here. It's very powerful, Lutheranism.
Yeah, so we'll do the Anabaptist Lutheran thing properly in due course, because that is one way to characterize it. No, I'm going to restrain myself.